Plans for a new hangar at the Huntingburg Airport are set to move forward. More on where things stand. Plus, Carrie Schneider is back with our friends at the DuBois County Humane Society, and host Bill Potter is back at the DuBois County 4-H Fair for tonight's edition of Inform. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. Discussion continues on a proposed new hangar for the Huntingburg Airport. Last night, representatives from Wolpert Engineering presented plans for a new 10-unit T hangar to the DuBois County Airport Authority. Though 10 units is the starting point, 2 to 4 additional units could be added on in the future to meet demand. DCAA President Brian Craig says there is already more demand for the new hangar than there is available space. He says flexibility will be an important part of this project.
Right now, we've got 12 of the 10 spots reserved, so it's a good problem to have. We're waiting on bids to come in. If hopefully the bids will come in at a point that we can add 2 or 4 more spots into that. Something that was mentioned today, that if we can't build more than a 10 unit, maybe we can get the land ready to be able to add on. Those are still options that are out there, but I do think it's important to be flexible right now, especially since the demand is out there.
Huntingburg Airport Manager Travis McQueen told the board that all 12 of those who requested space were DuBois County residents, and all of them made the required deposits for a spot in the new hangar. McQueen also suggested forming a committee to accept and go through the bids for this project. The board approved that recommendation and set a special meeting to award the final bid. That meeting will take place at 5:30 p.m. on August 4th. Also last night, the board approved the hiring of certified flight instructors for the airport. The instructors will be paid $28 an hour and will work no more than 29 hours a week. The board then approved changing the salary ordinance to reflect the new employees and their pay. In other news this evening, a doctor who was recently hired by Davies Community Hospital was arrested over the weekend after he was found to be driving under influence from prescription drugs. On Sunday, Evansville police stopped the vehicle driven by 40-year-old Samuel Bird of Vincennes near the intersection of Green River Road and Morgan Avenue. A witness told police that Bird had hit 2 curbs before leaving a nearby restaurant. Police say Bird passed a breathalyzer test, but he failed several other field sobriety tests. Bird later told jail officers that he had taken a prescription known as propanol earlier in the day on Sunday. Bird was lodged in the Vanderburgh County Jail on operating while intoxicated charges. Meanwhile, police also found marijuana in Bird's vehicle. Bird's wife, 38-year-old Tracy Greenberg, was arrested on possession of marijuana and public intoxication charges. Davies Community Hospital had announced last week that Bird would join the staff at the hospital's medical clinic on Grand Avenue. Bird is a Washington High School graduate and practiced medicine in Evansville and Vincennes prior to being hired at DCH. Habitat for Humanity of DuBois County got a boost for its fundraising efforts. Last night, Will Reed and Sing for Food hosted a benefit for Habitat at the Center for Manufacturing, Innovation, and Technology on the Vincennes University Jasper campus. The show featured several local essayists and musicians, including Scott Salmon, Abby Rumbach, Mark Stedzik, and Bethany Baglin. Evansville radio reporter Cass Harrington also read several essays at last night's show. Harrington hosts All Things Considered and The Trend for WNIN. For Salmon, the opportunity to help organizations like Habitat for Humanity is what the performances are all about.
Habitat is one of the shows that we finally got to do something for. You know, listening to Melissa talk, telling the audience what it was all about, you know, a lot of things I didn't even know. But I've always known it's a worthwhile cause in this town, and a lot of people really support it. We're glad to draw the people we did tonight and raise some funds for them.
Now, last night's show drew a full house to the auditorium in the CTIM building. Melissa Baxter is the executive director of Habitat for Humanity of DuBois County. She says the turnout for the event is a sign of support for the organization.
I think that the crowd that's in there is just, I've seen so many of them that are Habitat, people, and then so many that might have heard about it on Facebook or they're regulars, but they're definitely a generous crowd, and I'm thankful.
Habitat for Humanity of DuBois County is closing in on its 20th anniversary. The organization was started back in 1995. Now, last night's show was the 49th show for the Will Read and Sing group. The group's first show, ironically, was held on the VUJC campus back in October of 2011. They have raised more than $28,000 for area charities since their founding. The city of Vincennes is now facing more than $2 million worth of work to repair its Wabash River flood levees, though that's much less than previous projections. Vincennes officials say the repairs are needed before the levees can be recertified with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. The certification is needed to prevent some residents from having to follow strict building codes or having to buy costly flood insurance. Vincennes Water Utilities General Manager Kirk Bucci told City Council members yesterday that some $4 million has been spent on recent levee projects, with the city needing to come up with an estimated $2.3 million to finish the repairs. Councilman Scott Brown said that cost estimate was manageable compared with the previous projection of $30 million. Finally this evening, Indiana now has more than $2 billion in cash reserves after spending cuts by most state agencies and a reduction in state funding for higher education. Republican State Auditor Suzanne Crouch released figures yesterday showing that state government ended its fiscal year on June 30th with a $106 million operating surplus in spite of nearly $60 million drop in tax revenues. Those included big declines in the inheritance tax that legislators approved eliminating and casino taxes. Republican Governor Mike Pence ordered the spending cuts last year, with state universities losing $34 million and the Family and Social Services Administration returning nearly $28 million. State Senate Democratic leader Tim Lannon faulted Pence for being more worried about the state surplus than improving the well-being of average Hoosiers. All right, coming up after the break, Carrie is back with our friends at the DuBois County Humane Society, plus your local forecast, sports with Kurt Vuxell, and tonight's Inform from the DuBois County 4-H Fair. That's all up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.